Hi, welcome back. We have arrived at the monthly wrap up time. I had a very fun and exciting reading and watching month this month. Whatever. Let's start with the books. I read 4 books this month and they were all very good reads. The first one being Off with Their Heads by Zoe Hanamikuta, if that's how you say it right. And Off with Their Heads is, in theory, an Alice in Wonderland retelling, and it's sapphic and it's very fantasy-esque and it's YA? Maybe? I'm not too sure. I really like this. I'm a huge Alice in Wonderland fan, and this is maybe the maddest and weirdest one of them all. They are literally insane, and it's very dark and, like I said, weird and pretty gory and sad and at its core. This is just a messy book. It's very chaotic. And enough with the heads. We follow Isadora Alice Sickle, who is in this lovely little friend group with 2 other girls. Their names are Carousel Rabbit and Tekka. I forget her name. Sorry to her. We follow them and we learn about their magic and the world they live in. This is a very different world they live in. The world is full of saints, and the saints are dying, and the White Queen is ruling. This is how we get to know them, and then very quickly a lot of things change, and they grow apart, and they grow up very differently, and they're just little monsters. They're truly little monsters. I'll read you the blurb because I don't think I did the summary justice. Also, please let me know if you like the quality more in this video, because I'm filming on my phone right now because I have a new one and the quality is better. Usually I film on my camera, but I wanted to try something different and see, especially for this time period in the day, because it's almost getting closer to getting darker. My camera usually kind of slacks. It really needs good lighting, so I'm trying to figure out if my phone does a better job. Anyway, in a world where saints are monsters and Wonderland is a dark forest where they lurk, young witches and lovers Carousel Rabbit and Isadora Alice Sickle were once both imprisoned in that forest for crime they didn't commit. But their freedom came at a devastating cost. Now, 5 years later, Caro, as a successful royal saint harvester, living the high life in a glittering capital and pretending not to know of the twisted monster experiments that her beloved Red Queen hides deep in the bowels of the palace. But for Ika, the memory of Caro's betrayal has hardened her from timid girl to ruthless hunter. A hunter who will stop at nothing to exact her vengeance on Caro, on the Queen, on the throne itself. But there's a secret about the saints the Queen's been guarding. A volatile magic at play, even more dangerous to Ika and Caro than they are to each other. Fierce, fantastical, and utterly uncanny. Great word to describe this book. This Korean-inspired reimagining of Alice in Wonderland by author will send readers down a dizzying rabbit hole and into a world drenched in blood and betrayal. And that is Off with the Heads. I actually really like this. Recommend to the people who like weird fantasy books. Maybe I'll read you the first line if it makes sense. I'll read you the first line. It's kind of like a prologue, but also not really. I just love the world of Alice in Wonderland, so I really like the storyline. It's very different from the original plot, don't get me wrong, but it's great nonetheless. Well, since you're already here, dear readers, past the middle of the sentence at its frayed end, humor a faceless narrator for a moment. Suppose a nasty little fairy tale, and oh, how brave a reader is, still directly here, again and again. That deserves a treat, a comfort, a familiar start to start it all off. And so, once upon a time, in a saint-stricken world, there were 2 horrible girls in love. Obsessed. And the way these 2 girls are in love with one another and obsessed and crave each other and long for one another but don't want to admit it, it's just fabulous. It's fabulous. The next book I read, I've actually wanted to read for a long time and I'm very happy I did, was The Glutton by A.K. Blakemore, which has put me in a spiral of needing to know more about this piece in French history. This person in French history, more like it. I don't even know where to begin to explain this book. in The Glutton, we follow this man, this little boy actually. He's just a boy when we get to know him first. His name is Tara. Probably pronouncing that way wrong, but who cares? Well, I do. But anyway, we follow him. He has a very traumatic childhood. It's very sad and lonely and hungry childhood. And just all of these things happen to this little boy that make him into this monster, which he isn't. Sadly, like people tend to do, they exploit that monster part of him. And it's very interesting read, especially on French history, just how far people will go for fame and for glory, and also just how sad life can be, and especially when you don't know anything or learn anything about love, friendship, and whatever. Actually, at its core, very sad, but it wasn't. The feelings I was mainly feeling while reading this was somewhat of disgust. Because yeah, I get it, but it's a very gruesome and cruel and violent and gory book, so don't forget that. The summary is the following. The 18th century is drawing to a close, and unrest grips France. Tara has been born into a life of slender means, but when a sudden act of violence ignites in him a ferocious appetite, his extraordinary abilities to eat make him a marvel throughout the land. Traveling to Paris and beyond, through the heart of the revolution, he journeys into a world of upheaval and depravity, in which the hunger of one peasant is matched only by the insatiable demands of the people of France. Let's quickly go back to Off with Their Heads. I would give this 4 stars. Very good writing style. There was just something missing for me, and I thought it was at times a little bit too messy. And I love the chaos, and I love the chaoticness and the messiness, but sometimes I just didn't know what was going on. So maybe it's also my own fault. Anyway, let's talk some more about The Glutton. Like I said, very, very, very upsetting read in a good way. I love the writing style, and like I said, I was very interested in the story. I don't know exactly. I think I would also give this a 4 star. Same for this one. I think at times it felt a bit too fast paced. I still really, really liked it. That is The Glutton. I did really like it. I had a fun and weird time reading it. And they were really, really, really please, if you are queasy about blood or anything of the sorts of people and animal being, read the trigger warnings. It's very intense, but I really very much enjoyed it. There are many like hidden symbolisms and whatever on companionship, war, and hate and exploitation. The next book really kick-started me into it's already June as I'm filming this, into my Greek mythology obsession, which I've always been a huge fan, but I'm finally taking it more serious and finally reading all the books I always wanted to read. And the one I'm talking about is Atalanta by Jennifer Saint, and I'm so happy that I started with this one because it was such a good read. I love this, especially the first quarter. No, especially of the first third, just based on the very girlhood-esque vibes that it was giving me, the nymphs and Atalanta just hanging out, you know. Atalanta is the one and only female Argonaut. Is that the name? Argonaut? Yeah, it is. It is. She's a hunter. She's trained by Artemis herself, which I love Artemis. And she's very powerful, and she lives in a world where females aren't allowed to be bold and intense and fearless and fierce as well. She's brilliant. She's an incredible hunter, and we follow her as she is left on the mountainside by her father, who wanted a son, and then raised by bears and Artemis, and then thrust into the open world to join Jason on his quest to find the Golden Fleece. And as a huge Percy Jackson fan, I'm loving it. This is so far one of my favorites. I really liked it, and I shall read you the summary, even though I think I probably did well. 4.5. Before I forget, 4.5. Just because I'm not too sure about the ending. I thought it was a nice ending, a good ending. There were some steps in between that were like kind of iffy for me, but I'm not too sure if that's just personal preference or actual storytelling that should have been done better. So, when a daughter is born to the king of Arcadia, she brings only disappointment. Left exposed on a mountainside, the defenseless infant Atalanta is left to the mercy of a passing mother bear and raised alongside the cubs under the protective eye of goddess Artemis. Swearing that she will prove her worth alongside the famed heroes of Greece, Atalanta leaves her forced to join Jason's band of Argonauts. But can she carve out her own place in the legends in a world made for men? Love. I love this book. Let's see what the first lines. I never know when books have prologues if I should read you the prologue or the first chapter. Let's do the prologue just so you get a feel for the writing style. When I was born, they left me on a hillside. The king had given his decree: if it's a girl, expose her on the mountain. And so, some unfortunate soul was dispatched from the palace with this unwanted scrap of humanity, a baby girl instead of the glorious heir the king desired. Just so you get a feel for how sweet and full of womanhood the first 3 chapters are. I'll read you this line as well. I didn't want to forget who I was before I came to live with this gentle, laughing woman. Ah, I love it. I truly cherish the beginning few moments with Atlanta living with these women a lot. It was so very sweet. The next book, which I cannot believe I finally read, was Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier. On my reading list for the longest of times. I remember briefly watching the movie whenever it came out. I don't remember what my thoughts were on the movie. I just rewatched it. So I'll talk about it in a second. Or maybe I won't. Did I watch it yesterday or the day before? Not too sure if it was June or May. Anyway, I didn't remember the storyline that well, but while reading, I remembered quite a few pieces. And I didn't know where it was going, but I didn't know to what extent. Rebecca follows the nameless narrator, kind of nameless. We don't know her first name until she marries, and then we just know her as Mrs. De Winter. And she starts off this quiet little life. She's a companion to this woman called Mrs. Van Hopper. I think that's her name. Something like that. Anyway. And you probably already know what Rebecca is, but what I'll tell you anyway. Yeah, she's this companion in there in Monte Carlo, and there she meets Mr. Maxime de Winter, and he owns this fabulous, beautiful place called Manderley, and it's famous for a reason. It's described beautifully, and I'm sure it looks beautiful, and in the film they did depict it very beautifully, and they very quickly fall in love. It takes not that quickly, but she's kind of he learns a lot about her, and she finally gets to be free and to talk and express herself the way she wants to, and so they fall in love, and he takes her to Manderley, and then a lot of crazy stuff happens. Let's just say that Mr. De Winter is a widower. The death of his wife is very mysterious and suspicious. A lot of people think so, and no one really knows what happened. They say she drowned at sea, and that's all we really know. And throughout this book, our narrator just learns all of these crazy facts, and she's very overwhelmed being the little owner of this huge mansion now. And there's also this weird house caretaker, and it's a lot happening, and it's very mysterious. I found myself really wanting to turn the pages very quickly, which doesn't happen that often to me. Yeah, that is Rebecca. Like I said, really liked it. I think in terms of it being a classic, I would give it a 4 star. So it was a very good reading month, I would say, because this is the last book. It felt a bit slow at some point, but I also really liked the quiet and scenic atmosphere that this book had. And it's also a little bit about haunting ghosts, but not really ghosts, and how far you will go for love. And I'll read you the first line just because it's an iconic line and everyone should know and knows this line. And it's: last night I dreamt I went to Manderley again. So we start with a dream sequence, which is always a fun thing. Those are all the books. Only 4 books, but they were all pretty thick-ish books, comparing them to the literary fiction I usually read. And that's get to the movies. A lot of movie watching this month. Be prepared. Okay, movies. Let's talk. Good movie watching month, I will say. Pretty random, but a good movie watching month. And the first movie I watched, I didn't watch quite any movies in the first week, but then I rewatched Conclave. You might guess why the Pope died. And my sister wanted to watch the movie, so rewatched it with her. Conclave came out 2024, directed by Edward Berger, starring Joaquin Phoenix, Stanley Tucci, Isabella Rossellini, many cool and great people. Not going to talk much about this. I really like this movie, but I talked about it in my yearly wrap up. I think has it been that long? Really liked it, and I think it's a very important story to watch and tell. No, it's very girl core. It's very girlhood core of me what I watched this month. Let's just say that, because the next movie I watched was Legally Blonde. Yeah, I'm on a trip of watching those very iconic 2000 movies at the moment. I don't know why. Just it's very comforting. I think Legally Blonde came out in 2001, directed by Robert Luketic. By Robert Luketic. Sure. Starring, of course, Reese Witherspoon, Jennifer Coolidge, Selma Blair, Luke Wilson. It's an iconic movie. There's not much to say. Legally Blonde follows Elle Woods, who is this very girly, fashion, glamour, fabulous girl who decides to apply to Harvard because of a boy and study law. And we just follow her course and realizing that she's so much more than just a girlfriend and whatever. That she's so much more than just a pretty face and a girlfriend of this rich and famous guy. It's brilliant. It's always going to be fabulous. I love this movie. It's just great. And then I watched a new movie, which was Death of a Unicorn, which I was so excited when this was announced. Published this year, directed by Alex Schaffman, and starring Jenna Ortega, love of my life, Paul Rudd, love of my life, Will Poulter. I really didn't know what to expect going into this movie, and I think those are the best kind of movies, because this was so entertaining. And if you say it was a shitty movie, I get where you're coming from, but I don't care. I was highly entertained, and I thought it was great, and it was funny, and it didn't take itself serious at all, and it was just a fun watch, and I love those type of movies. It doesn't always need to be so serious. And Death of a Unicorn, we follow a father and daughter who go on this pretty intense, let's just say that, pretty intense business trip from the father. And this is kind of about him taking over the company, I think. And while they're driving over there, they run over an animal. Turns out that animal is a unicorn. Is a unicorn. And like rich people tend to do, not the father and daughter do, but the other billionaires, they exploit this unicorn to its unicorn. Jenna's character is obviously but she's like very against animal cruelty and whatever. And there's also this big, huge part of her mother dying many years before it, and that playing into the story as well. And it's just great commentary on rich people and the lengths they will go to for immortality, if you will, and money and fame and all the things that rich people want. And I thought the dynamic between Paul Rudd's and Jenna Ortega's characters was really great. And I always love a father-daughter duo in a movie. So I really like this. Highly, highly entertaining. Can recommend if you just want to shut your mind off and watch a movie and maybe get a little bit sad about family dynamics. Just so funny. I thought I had a great timing with the jokes, and just overall really funny actors in this. They know how to deliver their jokes. Now the next two movies I watched are all in the same movie, because I watched it 2 times in the span of 1 week, and that movie is none other than Sinners. It's Sinners. It's Blood and Sinners. I'm not too sure what the actual title is, because in Germany, in the cinemas, they're calling it Blood and Sinners, but online everyone's just saying Sinners. I'm not too sure. If you know anything about me, I love vampires. My last video or the second to last video was me ranking all of the vampire media I've ever seen, and that was also included in that. So I will talk about it right now as well, but I love this movie. S tier, perfect movie. Nothing wrong with this movie. I couldn't tell you a single thing wrong with this movie. So 5-star, 6-star, perfect, brilliant. Sinners. Directed by Ryan Coogler, which, of course, he's brilliant. Starring Michael B. Jordan twice. Miles Caton, which I think this is like his debut in acting in a movie. I'm not too sure if he's done anything else. But he's brilliant. He's so talented. Like the emotion this man put into this movie, and his voice, it's crazy. He has a fabulous, beautiful, magnificent, magical voice that transported me to all the wonderful places in the world. And Haley Steinfeld, Jack O'Connell, whom I love, Hunmi Mosaku, many great people. This is a fabulous cast. Racism, huge part of this movie. Brilliantly done. Learned so much. Loved this so much. This is about community. Huge focus on community, especially Black community. The power of song, the power of music, the power of dance, the power of community, the power of love. And vampires, of course, at its core. And it's also, as well, as much as it is about Black history and culture, it's also about Irish culture in some ways. And it has a beautiful score, beautiful soundtrack, beautiful cinematography, beautiful lines, beautiful storytelling. I could talk about this movie for hours. I'm obsessed. I am a huge fan of Dracula. I have so much Dracula merch and so much appreciation for Dracula, but I was very excited to see a movie that wasn't another retelling, another adaptation of Dracula, and it's very much its own story, taking inspiration from a lot of great classics, of course, especially Black classics and especially vampire classics, but very much its own piece of art. And I loved it so much. That is why I watched it twice in cinemas. And the second time was even better than the first, so also cried my eyes out. And then I wanted to watch another video for my vampire media ranking, so I watched very randomly. I always have like lists of movies I want to watch, and I never watch them because I usually just scroll through whatever platform, and if something looks good to me, I will just watch that based on what mood I am in. And the mood I was in that day was a very silly and entertaining mood because I watched Vamps. 2012, directed by Amy Heckerling, starring Alicia Silverstone and Kristen Ritter, who's the love of my life. I love her. She's so gorgeous. Love her and everything she's in. And Vamps is a very entertaining and silly vampire story of these two girls living together and living their vampy life, but also they're vegetarians, so they don't drink humans but rats, and one of them is very old, but the other one doesn't know that she's very old, and it's very much about sisterly love, even though they're not sisters, but you know, that's the vibe. But I also very much thought that they should just kiss and live together forever, but whatever. Yeah, and it's just about them living their modern vampire lives, and they're very funny vampire references here. So many references to vampire media, which I always find very entertaining in like modern funny vampire movies. Yeah, they live in New York. That Vlad Tepes is there. Van Helsing is there. You know, the iconic. They referenced it all. They referenced it all, and it was a good watch. I don't have any complaints. It just was funny, and for it being a funny comedic vampire story, the ending was really sad. I think they really landed that ending very well. Amazing lines and amazing moral of the story, I'd say. And the next two movies are both children's movie, technically. This one, the next one I watched with my friends really randomly because we wanted to, and it's Orion in the Dark, 2024, directed by Sean Schamatz. I don't know. This is a animated movie following Orion, who is this very scared cat. No, why was I about to say cat? Who's this very scared kid, and he has many fears of many things, which was very relatable and made me very sad at times, and because I could see myself in him. And he meets the the personified version of the dark, who he is very scared of. And they go on this nightly adventure together where he faces all of his fears. And while I did enjoy the theoretical moral of the story of this movie, I thought it got too big. It got very world problem solving, and I think I would have liked it more if it just focused on him dealing with his anxieties and fears, because that would be very relatable and I think would be very important for children to see in an animated movie, that they're not alone with their fears and that they can overcome them, and even if they don't, that's okay. I think I would have liked it more. Very sweetly animated though. I really liked the style of animation. And the next movie I watched was a rewatch of How to Train Your Dragon 2010, directed by Chris Sanders. Loved this movie as a child. I rewatched this because next week I'm going to watch the live action movie, which I'm excited for. Hope it doesn't disappoint me too much. I am excited though. I actually like a lot of live remakes. I just recently launched Stitch drama. Got me on edge. I love this. It's so well animated and the score is beautiful and the characters are so funny and hilarious and sweet. And that is How to Train Your Dragon. I will let you know what I think about the live remake because I am a huge fan of this one. Always had a huge love for Toothless, of course, and so I'm very excited. The next movie I watched was The Pro Shot of Next to Normal, the musical West End edition, starring Jack Wolf, Cassie Levi, Jamie Parker, Eleanor Worthington Cox, which, what a cast! Every single person on this cast, brilliant, talented, wonderful voices, wonderful portrayals of emotions, and the soundtrack, of course, brilliant. I love musicals, especially rock musicals. This was directed by Michael Langhurst and Austin Shaw. And Next to Normal follows this very next to normal family, and we follow them as the mother of the family ruins all of their lives, sadly, because of her bipolar disorder. The very unmedicated and sad disorder. This, of course, is only a version of the musical. It's very, I've heard, very different from the original. Not very different, but more modernized, because of course mental health back then was viewed as a terrible, terrible thing, and now, you know, we are where we are. And this is so sad. I cannot talk about this much. I've been listening to the recording every single day, many, many times. I'm obsessed. I have my For You page is full of this. I'm just so deeply involved into this musical. Always been a huge fan of Jack Wolf, of course, because of Shadow and Bone. Always been obsessed with him. That obsession just got way worse. I just wow, 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 wow. I thought I'd just mention the musical in here because I did log it in Letterboxd, so that's that. But we have arrived at the last movie. And I also just realized I didn't watch Rebecca this month in May, so I'll talk about it in the next video, in the next wrap up. And the last movie I watched in May was Mermaids 1990, directed by Richard Benjamin, starring Cher, Winona Ryder, and Christina Ricci, which I love them. I love these three women, have my heart. Christina is literally like 4 years old. I don't know how old she actually is, but she's very young and she's so sweet and innocent. I just want to hug her and tell her everything's going to be okay and take her away from all these horrendous people in the industry. But anyway, Winona's also really young. I think it's like 2 years after Beetlejuice, so it's crazy. She's crazy young, and Cher looks the same as always. um, Mermaids. I really didn't know what this movie was about going into it. I just saw some beautiful shots of it and had it in my watch list for a while, so I just decided to randomly watch it. This, just as well as like Bams, it's just a very entertaining movie, and this also had a very sad and intense turn, which I didn't expect. So be aware of mother-daughter relationship dynamics. We just follow this single mother raising her two wonderful daughters, and she's very chaotic and they're very chaotic, and it's just very intense dynamics. And Christina Ricci's character is like this girl obsessed with swimming, and they're just very interesting. The older sisters, Winona Ryder's character is very Catholic, and yeah, it's just very I saw a review that said this is Gilmore Girls if they were on crack. which I think makes a lot of sense because of course the mother-daughter dynamic, and they're just really intense and crazy. Like Lorelai and Rory could never, but in the best way possible. I thought it was very. I just really liked it. Actually, I have no complaints. It wasn't the best movie I've ever seen, not at all. Like there's just but there's just something really nice and sweet and entertaining about the 90s, the movies in the 90s, with like all of these well-known actors in these very simple and personal stories that are mischaracterized and whack storytelling, but they're just fun to watch and they're interesting stories to watch. And this one especially got very sad and emotional at the end, which I appreciated, even though it felt very sudden and dramatic. But that's also a good thing. And that's a wrap on my wrap up. Um, I just talked for hours on end, and I was standing the whole time, so I hope I wasn't too fidgety. Um, Please let me know if you read or watched any of these, and also let me know what your favorites of this month were. Mine were definitely Sinners and Atlanta. Definitely. If I had to pick a book and a movie, Sinners and Atlanta. And that's it from my side. I don't have anything else to say. I hope the quality was good in this video. If not, I apologize. I have a very fun bookish vlog coming soon. Very cozy, very autumn coded, even though it's summer and I'm sweating. See you in the next one. Love you. Bye.